Well, shall we get started? My name's Doug, and I'd like to keep this fairly informal, so if you have questions pop up. Today we're going to be discussing legal extensions and tools for Office XP. I think the big reality check with XP and that everybody's worried about right now is it worth the upgrade, right? Because Microsoft comes out with an upgrade every few years, and it's a lot of money, and you can never tell exactly whether it's going to be worthwhile or not. And so that's the constant question. And so given this conference's keynote of virtual reality checks, I'd hope to offer at least some of the features that can help you make that decision yourselves in some rational way, or at least get a look inside what's going to be available. But to give you some context, every year there are about 1 billion documents filed with court. And it's virtually a dead certainty that the vast majority of those are built on a word processor of some variety or another. And as you all well know, for the umpteen years, WordPerfect has been sort of the legal profession's word processor of choice. And there are a lot of very good functional reasons for that. But the rest of the world has sort of shifted over to Word. And the market penetration of Word in the rest of the industry is in excess, in the rest of the world rather, is in excess of 90%. In fact, the legal profession is the last one that has really hung on to WordPerfect as their primary word processing tool. And Microsoft, being Microsoft, recognized this and felt the need to do something about it. And so one of the reasons that WordPerfect was so suitable for lawyers is because they do some very complex formatting types of operations. Word is a WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get. WordPerfect is decidedly not. And so people have these problems because you're trying to make something do something that you can't see. So Microsoft formed a legal advisory council in December of 1998. And that consisted of about 20 people, practitioners, IT types, academics, consultants, all sorts of folks. And they came in and they literally sat down with the Word developers and the feature planners and said, okay, now you've got major problems. If you expect real-life lawyers to use Word, you're going to have to fix these things in this order. And that's exactly what that council was dedicated to do. And Microsoft feels it's been a very successful thing. They had a lot of emphasis on the legal industry, and they produced some specific tools for the legal industry as part of Office XP. The design goals, and these are not Microsoft's design goals, but they're the ones that translate into what you see, is Office XP is very much oriented to minimize futzing, which is a highly technical term that means playing with how things look and messing around with it until you achieve some level of satisfaction with the creativity as well as the content, to minimize the mystery of what's going on. One of the big things people liked about WordPerfect for years was reveal codes, right? Everybody seen reveal codes? Most lawyers, think reveal codes are, the next best thing to slice bread. Improve productivity, that's always a goal for software. Make collaboration easier, and finally, be nice. Most Microsoft programs are not particularly friendly. They're not easy to deal with, and when something happens, you get blue screens of death or other terrible things that show up, and you really don't know what happened, you don't know what you did, and it's just a miserable experience. So they wanted to be nice. So those set of design goals really translated into a better set of basics. And there were some simple things like non-contiguous select, better application stability, document recovery, and better security. Lawyers especially have very specific concerns in all those areas. Better and friendly tools. They introduced a variety of new technologies to make life just a little easier all the way around. We're going to be seeing a good number of those today with the task panes and the smart tags and some things like that. But they also spent a lot of time doing some basic stuff like making format converters work better, because slowly it's dawning on Microsoft that it's not a Microsoft-centric world. And they also, as I said, produce some specialized legal tools like their legal black line tool for document comparison. So today, we're just going to sort of crack the lid on Office XP, but these are the primary functions that have really come out in the legal space as being oriented specifically towards this profession. There are many others in there as well that we won't talk about, and many additional layers of things that have been added that we won't have time to really go to in any depth. As I said, how many of you are WordPerfect users? Reveal code users? Yep. Hate Word because there's no reveal codes? Okay, well, working with Word in the past has been frequently like this picture, right? I mean, you get some images, there's little sum markers around there, but the picture's always kind of fuzzy because you really don't know what's behind there, right? It's always frustrating because you're always trying to figure out, well, how do I outsmart Word so it does what I said I wanted to in the first place? So what they did was Microsoft came up with something called a reveal code, or excuse me, a task pane, excuse me. I'm sure they would claim that if they could, but the task pane for certain varieties of tasks comes up on the right side. And it's a set of tools very specific to a particular context of operation that tell you what's going on. So in this case, they did reveal formatting, and you'll notice now for any selection or any word that you can click there and it gives you the font information, it gives you the paragraph, and even down to the section level of information. So there's no more mysteries there. It's all there, right there. It's not like having it in line, but it's almost as good. Now the other thing that because attorneys work heavily with formatting and very complex formatted documents, frequently the problem is comparing what's here but not here. And so they made that very simple up there at the top. You'll notice there's a little checkbox, compare to another selection. And you check that, and in this case it's comparing the formatting for unsecured with the formatting for the word represent, and now it's the formatting differences. So again, you're getting some sense of how to fix stuff if it's different. So how do you do this? Well, very simply, I'm just going to run through these things really quick, and then I'll show you a demo that shows you how it works. Yeah. So on the format menu, you just pull down the reveal formatting, and it pops that task pane up. Position the mouse over the word of interest. Again, that checkbox, and click in the new selection. So, as soon as I get a cursor here, we will click through to a document. Okay, so here's that same document. To show the reveal pane, we just go up here to Format, Styles and Formatting, and Reveal Formatting, and the task pane comes up over here on the left. Clicked on Unsecured, and the formatting that you see is the word associated with that. If you want to do comparisons, there's the format differences. And of course, this is an active view. It's not a purely passive operation. So if you, for instance, italicize that, that'll show you that. So in some senses, I mean, my job is to write specifications. I do a lot of that. So I create these long documents. And WordPerfect was always a better tool for that because I could make things look consistent. I wasn't trying to outguess stuff. This now sort of brings me up to parity with that. I can really figure out what the differences are between sections and not just with style issues. Okay. Yeah? Well, no, it's not editable in that sense. I should caution you all. Two things about this presentation. First of all, this is beta software. The production software is out, but I have not yet had a chance to load it. So this was the last beta just prior to production. And I do not have canonical knowledge of all of XP yet, but I'm working on it. So you can obviously highlight things that are hyperlinked. So in this case, if we wanted to convert to another font, I don't know, something interesting, then you can do that kind of editing. But if it's not linked, for instance, then you can't. But they've done a reasonably good job at that kind of thing. Is that reasonably clear? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Good thing? Yep. Bad thing? Better? Not there yet. Okay. The skeptic in the crowd. Yeah, okay. All right. And, all right. Now, how many of you have had the lovely privilege of visiting Document Change Purgatory, right? The problem is who did what, where, when. You know, it's the old Abbott and Costello routine, except it's virtual, right? So there's a million copies that are slightly different, all floating around, and each one of them are perfect copies. So if I copy one, now I have two problems instead of just one, right? So, an interesting place, but the real fun is when you get to attachments, right? How many of you email documents around for review, right? I mean, very few people actually live and work by themselves, and so they want information from other people. And it's a special sort of entertainment in the Martha Stewart sense, because it never works the way you want it to right now. I will email an original to you, you receive it, and you make some edits. And then what do? Well, how many of you are Outlook users? Okay, so let me describe some scenarios, and you tell me if one fits you. I make those edits, and then I save it. Now, do I just reply back now? Or do I have to save the document on the desktop, create a new document, attach the new attachment back in, and then send it? Right? Have you had that problem or that question? And by the way, if I do get that edit, and I make those edits and I save it, where is that? It's not any place that has a logical name, like edited in the edit folder. No, it's like some temporary folder with some hexadecimal code that has no meaning except to some random number generator. So what usually happens is you make the edits and you do what you think will work, you close your eyes and you hope for the best. Right? Is that the experience most of you have had, one way or another? I have that one all the time. And somebody finally sat down with a developer and said, okay guys, this is not working. So what they did was, in Word now, you're familiar with the send to, they have mail recipient for review. Okay? So that means it's a significant change. You now own the master of the copy of the document. Okay? And when I send it to you, or to you, or to you, you're getting a copy for review. Now say I want to make some changes. And this is a big change for how things work. And I think for me, this feature alone is probably worth the price of admission for Office XP. But now when I make changes, instead of being demarcated by little vertical lines and colors, and see, I'm real colorblind, so I can always tell, when people, it's really an ugly story. But anyway, now, when I make a change, it tells what the change was, and it puts that out in a little bubble in the right margin. So in this case, it deleted this whole phrase, to the best knowledge of the undersigned, yada, 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 and that all happened right here where that little arrow points. Additions are in red. Even formatting changes are marked. So if somebody goes through and does their futzing with your document, you see exactly what happened. Now there's also some really nice features up here as well. In the upper left corner there's a little drop-down box. And now you have 4 views of the document. There's the original view, there's the original showing any markup, then there's the final view. And in other words, if you're the master owner of that, there's that final view that shows you what it is without any markup, and then there's the final view with the markup after you've merged the changes back in. So it gives you a variety of ways to look at the presentation of the document. You'll also note up there there's a little, in the highlighted area, there's a little drop down there. And what that does is that's the edit pane. And that tells you specifically, lays it out down here, who did it and when they did it, or what the suggestion was. Yeah?
If you send it out to multiple people,
right.
and you're receiving back
Multiple copies.
all the different channels.
All different.
Can I manage all of that with you?
Yes. You can. And I'll show you how that happens in a minute. Because remember, you have the master copy, right? And you get all these things back. And the changes show up on the side. And you can choose whether to merge those back in. And by looking at the pane on the bottom, you can tell who made that suggestion. Yeah?
The bottom pane, is that been printed separately from the document?
I don't know. Yeah.
Do all of the recipients have to be using this feature?
No, but I'll say that guardedly. I'm the only one running XP in my department because I'm the local geek. And when I send things out for review and I get it back, they have the new edits in there. So the edits are in the file format. They've been there forever. But I think now XP is just taking advantage of the edits and displaying those in a nice way. That's my guess, but that's the way it's been behaving for me. Yeah.
The requirement is that the sender and the receiver be using Outlook to manage the...
Well, no, not really, because if you're using some other package and I send you a Word document, you make your changes and then reattach it back, then it still comes back to me as a Word document with your changes in
But
it.
does it come back as part of this version?
I believe it does, but again, I don't want to say canonically, but I believe it does. It's not quite as slick, obviously.
What happened with the other person who's using WordPerfect?
Well, then you have a whole raft of other problems, right? Because they have to convert to WordPerfect, then they do their edits there, and then they convert back to Word. And I don't know if you had much of a chance to try this, but the converters are very good, but they're imperfect. And it's a problem of mapping, because not everything Word does, WordPerfect does, and vice versa. Some documents convert really cleanly, some documents do a good job, and some don't do it all. So, WordPerfect, all bets are off on this. So, how do we do that? Well, we have to turn on tracking, so we can click on the status bar, or go up in the menu, and do File, Send to Recipient for Review, right-click the menu, on the reviewing toolbar. You've seen that in the toolbar. You can right-click in the menu area and get a new toolbar. There's a specific reviewing toolbar and all that. And we'll go through an example of this in a minute, but I kind of want to get through the end of the scenario here. But there's still more fun, right? Because you send your attachment back, and now my problem is to merge those in. And some nice lady pointed out that there's many people that want to contribute to my document because, of course, they know better than me. So I now need to change those back in one by one and from each author. Then there's also this issue of black line comparison, because I want to keep a separate document that's exactly the way it is originally without merging all those things in. And I want to know what changed in that document when I've merged everything in. So how do we do that? Well, you'll notice up here we have reply with changes. So when you make your changes, then you send that back, and that then creates an email with that copy of the document with your changes that goes back to the original owner. And you'll see we've got the changes in here. When we want to do the document comparison, I go up and pull down Tools, and then I go to compare documents, and I say, give me. That's going to allow me to open another file just like this and say, give me the legal blackline version. And that's going to create a new document that has the differences in it, but it's going to preserve the formatting of my old one. So I don't add, I don't merge or anything like that. Okay, how to do it. We just right-click on those changes to accept or reject. And as I said, we'll go through this. Gotta use the right mouse here. All right. So, I'm going to start with this document, and nothing special about it. We're going to make some changes to show you how that looks when we add stuff. And we'll make that italicized, and say contract terms, and let's add some more here. And maybe we'll just change that as below. So, all right, so now we've edited our document, and you'll notice as I put those changes in, it put those on the side. So it very definitively shows you what was done. And now I'm going to send this document to myself, because I know better than anybody how it should read, right? And so I say send to recipient for review. And it'll package all that up in the document as it presently sits in an email. And you'll be able to, gives you a subject line, give you some content and all that. Now all you have to do is fill it out and off you go. Now I'm not actually hooked up to the net here, so instead I'm going to open my inbox and open, once I've made my changes now and I've sent them back to myself. I have a very odd lifestyle because I work at home, so I have to provide my own companionship sometime. And, this is another thing you'll notice. Have you guys seen this dialogue yet? This came out as part of, I think, Office 2000, and it's Microsoft's attempt to prevent you from being infected when you trade macros. This is very draconian, and there is a hack that's out there that will allow you to say, okay, certain kinds of things I'll let in, but it's really hard to get around. So I guess the moral of the story is get used to it, because as long as Word is the most popular editor, then you'll have those sorts of problems and people working on those kinds of problems. Okay, content linking sample contract was sent for review. Do you want to merge the changes back in? So we say yes. All right. Now there's the changes that the other version of myself made. And he makes a question and he adds a few things here. So if I want to accept those, then I can say, okay, I'll accept that deletion, I'll accept that insert, etc. Yeah, I don't care about the comment, so I'm going to delete that too. All right, so is that pretty clear how that works? It's a little simpler, and obviously you don't have this whole issue of where to store stuff before you send it back. Yeah?
Other than the fact that it's displaying the changes on the XP, it's not written on the previous track.
In what respect?
Word right now shows.
Yes.
Changes.
Yeah, you can track changes today. Yeah, and this is just purely a tool to make your life easy. Or easier, put it that way. It's never easy. Okay, so let's go and compare this now with the original document. So I go up to Format, Compare, and Merge Documents. And I want to go back to that, and I want to look at the original content sample. Notice I've got legal blackline checked here. And we want to compare that. So now you'll notice that I have document 1 here. Okay, this is a new document. That's the way the original looked. And I've also got that document, the modification there. So it gives you now tools where you don't have to write over the top. You can compare, again, what was going on. Okay, I'm going to get rid of some of these. Kill Outlook as well. All right, where are we? All right, security. This has been a big flaw, and we talked about that briefly in a sec, because now when you open a document, it asks you whether to save or open. There's a very good reason for that, because if you save it, it allows your virus checker to scan that in the normal way. But they've also introduced some new privacy options specifically as well. And again, remove personal information from this file on save. And I don't know how many of you have looked at the properties of a document, but embedded in the properties today, there's your name and a lot of other information, or potentially can be. So you can actually now remove that so that that's not in there. Warn before printing, saving, or sending that contains track changes or comments. A nice little thing so you don't inadvertently send something. And then store a random number to improve merge accuracy. That's some ungodly geek information that I have no idea why it's there and why it's an option, because why would you not want to do that, right? UIs are not always the most obvious things. Macro security, again, we just touched on that briefly. If you click on the macro security button, you get this, and now you have the option to set what level of macro security as well as trusted sources for documents as well. But that still doesn't get around the problem of certain types of documents may not be trusted. So for instance, if you send a .exe to somebody, that'll throw up all sorts of save or open decisions that you have to make. Okay, and to get there, it's just Tools, Options, Security tabs. And we can do a little demo of that, but it's pretty straightforward. Tools, Options, and Security tab. And it's all right there. So that's how you get to that security information. Is that a big deal for you all? I mean, would that be high on your priority list to get that kind of security in documents? Maybe, yeah, okay. Okay. Is anybody a haiku fan? You write your own haiku? There's a whole branch of geeks that find it entertaining to write error messages in haiku. And there's websites, more than one, devoted to collections of this, but this just happens to be one of my favorites because I've been burned so many times. And of course, also having a cat on my top of my monitor, a lot of times that's exactly the look he has when that happens. It's not my problem. So, what has Microsoft done to do something about that? Well, again, one of the design goals was to be nice. So when your document dies or your program dies, this message comes up. Microsoft, PowerPoint, or Word, or whatever has encountered a problem and needs to close. We are sorry for the inconvenience. I want to make that point really strongly here because that's probably the one and only time you'll get an apology. But no, I say that in jest. I have a lot of good friends that work there, and this was very specifically something they wanted to do. A lot of times people just wind up feeling angry, and they don't have anything to swear at or kick besides the computer, so this is at least a palm in that direction to say, yeah, we know we screwed up, so we're sorry about it. But if you're in the middle of something, the information might be lost, do you want me to restart at the same place? And you also have the option of telling Microsoft about this problem. Most of the time, you get the blue screen of death, right, and it says, well, you call DSG, and they say, well, what does it say on the screen? So there's like an unintelligible set of characters, and Microsoft, then your DSG person sends that to Microsoft, and Microsoft says, well, I don't know what were they doing when it happened. So they designed this whole very interesting system now where you can actually send the error conditions to Microsoft. And by sending that report, then that helps them to figure out what are the big errors that are happening and to get fixes out faster if they're a common error. You have the option not to send that, and you also have the option to see what's inside of that. And there is virtually no personal information in that report. It's all just computerese that describes the objects and the programming behind that. It's a cool idea. You guys like that one? Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, it's really kind of cosmetic because it helps you feel better, but hopefully they'll also get patches out faster that'll help you out with your problem. So how does that work? Well, if you get that error and then the system closes and you say, yeah, I want to restart, you get a task pane over here. It says, okay, I've got these two files that have that file name that you were editing when you last worked with the problem. Which one do you want to choose? And you click on one of those, and then it pops that back up here. So it takes you back to the same point, or as near as it can get in the same file, without you having to maneuver and restart the program and find the document and all that. So again, a convenience factor. And then you can choose to save and close. So I'm going to demonstrate this. And this is a little entertaining, and it takes a little bit. But I'll also show you how to force your program to crash in case any of you are interested in that. So I have this document here, and I'm going to force Word to crash. And I do that by going to the Microsoft Office Tools and click on Application Recovery. And that'll say, oh, something's wrong. He's telling me to recover, so we will recover that application. Okay, there's our little message. So that's what comes up. To see what data is in the report, I know you're all dying to see this. That's the information they need to actually see what you're sending. If you send that, I mean, it's nothing personal here. It's just the state of the program when it ran. And they also put their privacy information in here as well in case you're concerned. I understand, although I have not yet seen it done, that this can be configured so it sends the bugs to your DSG person or your IT shop rather than to Microsoft. I've not seen that done, but it is in the documentation that it can be done. So we're not going to send this. Now it's recovering the documents, or the document I was in. And it's going to close Word down. And it's going to ask me to load it again. And you'll notice now that document I was in is right up here. If I click on that, it moves that document down into the main page here, and now I'm as close as Word can get me, or one of the tools can get me to where I was when it failed, which is, I think, a pretty good thing. I mean, arguably, they've started to respect the fact that, you know, programs are going to fail.
How often are the time backups occur?
That's a setting you can make. Not nearly often enough. I always go and reset that to, you know, a couple of minutes.
Hasn't changed. I mean,
No.
we have to educate our users to move it down from 20 minutes to
2, yeah. Yeah. In general, it's, you know, the best thing is still to save frequently. And, all right, smart tags. Now, this is one of the things that Microsoft is really most proud of with this release, and they really think that smart tags are going to change the way you think about information and navigation in your environment. Did anybody of you see Dan Dabney's talk just the previous hour? Dan talked about contextualizing information and how difficult that is on the web. And smart tags is a step in that direction because it does things like recognize types of information and then automatically inserts links to that type of information where it's appropriate. It's similar and very much related to the spelling and grammar checkers. So as you type stuff in, it recognizes it. It recognizes specific content types and then makes links available based on that type. So it'll recognize names or dates or stock ticker symbols or things like that. Once it sees that, it underlines it with a very faint blue underline, dashed blue underline, and there's a little pop-up if you move your cursor over that comes up and said, oh, I found a smart tag here. I have some operations that you can do with that particular piece of information. And it provides that multiple actions in that context menu when you click on it. So let's look at this. This is just a Word document, and this is a set of smart tags that Wes wrote for using their SiteLink tool. Is anybody familiar with that? And what SiteLink does, if you've not seen it, is it automatically finds legal citations and marks those as hyperlinks. So Microsoft asked us if we would modify that so they could demonstrate smart tags in this environment, and we did. And so as you type and fill this in, you'll notice there's a faint dotted blue underline there, and that indicates that a smart tag has been found. Take a little closer look at this. You'll notice the cursor is now right here, and as I hover there, there's a little information icon that pops up. If I click on that icon, I get a little drop down like that. And now I have a selection of things I can do with that particular piece of recognized information. In this case, I can find it, I can do a key cite on it, I can look at citing references, I can insert a hyperlink, a hard hyperlink as opposed to just a smart tag, or I can take the tag off or do any of a variety of other things. That's kind of cool, I think. And I think it's got a big potential in terms of how people use it. In this case, we'll click on enter the citation, and the correct document will be pulled up on westlaw.com. Similarly, for key cite history, it'll pull that up. So let's look at it. This is a document that was fairly recent. And you'll notice that there are some cases cite. Well, let's back up. There's some other good stuff in here. You'll notice the date. Let's make this easier to see. There we go. All right. So does everybody see the faint blue underline here? And you'll notice a little I tag. We pop on that. Now we can do things like schedule a meeting on that day or show the calendar or whatever. It recognizes names, send mail, all those sorts of things. You can see the power here. It makes life a lot easier, right? Because now I'm not futzing with screens. I can just say, okay, I recognize that name. I want to send that guy an email. I don't have to go through close Word, open Outlook, new mail, da-da-da-da-da. It's just all right here. So here's a case. Siegel versus Lepore. Same deal here. Recognizes that site. Click on that. Sign you on to westlaw.com and pull that up directly. Yeah.
I have a quick difference. Did the app find the site? I noticed you could find different things throughout the document.
Right.
The app, that feature, the find option.
That feature comes from us, right? So you have to download the Smart Tags plugin that recognizes that for Word. That doesn't come with Word. Yeah.
Is it recommended that you're already logged into Westlaw before you do that?
No, if you're not logged in, it'll present you with the authorization screen. You click through that and you go right into the same document. Just like it works today. Okay. Have you been following the Wall Street Journal? You read the text section in the Wall Street Journal? Lewis, I can't remember his name. The guy that writes the text section has lots of swing weight in the tech industry. He hates these things. He says they are the worst thing to come along. And as a developer, I look at him and go, why? And his problem is that he thinks that Microsoft will begin propagating information and sending you to places they think you should go, rather than people that supply the smart tags and give you that option. And an example is like a stock ticker symbol, right? If you type in MSFT, it takes you to MSN Money. And they think Microsoft is going to be extending their hegemony over your personal intellectual property by defining where your links go. Well, I think that's going to be a really tough sell. And the reason is pretty straightforward. You have the choice of which smart tags you want to work with. In other words, if you go up to Tools, Autocorrect, Smart Tags, you'll see there's a variety of these in here. And there's one of them, MSN Money Central. But there's a bunch of those in there. Those are the ones that are provided. But Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, ESPN, LexisNexis, our good friends on the other side of the space, are all providing smart tags too. You personally have to load those, and you always have the option of turning those off. So it's not like Microsoft is forcing anybody to install anything or forcing how you link stuff. It's entirely up to you. So that argument, like most things to do with software, probably good for at least days of discussion with little definitive action at the end of the day. Yeah.
Can you make your own smart tag?
Yes, you can. You can do smart tags in a couple ways. There's a very simple interface where you can do like lists of words. You have to know something about XML, and you have to know something about Visual Basic. But yeah. There's a simple way, and then there's a very complex way. The site link implementation where it found and marked legal sites was actually fairly complex because we have a whole engine back there, and it's more than just one term. But yeah, they're perfectly customizable. There's a software development kit. Go to it and do anything you want. I can really see firms that have a technology shop or schools that have classes to put together site link plugins for that class that link to documents or things like that, or sites on their internet. I don't think that's that far off. I think it'll be a huge convenience factor. In the same way that you check out a library book or you buy a book for a class, you'll get software plugins that work for that class too, for smart tags and things like that. I think it's a very good feature. I think it's got a lot of future.
Do you have anything like that for the earlier versions of law where you go back and tag documents? That's sort parsing the document and tagging it.
Right.
The way the old site.
The old SiteLink works, and it still works that way in WordPerfect and in IE, is you have to mash a button on the top, and then it scans the document and marks it as hard hyperlinks. And
That's an
so,
alternative for those of us who are interested in the concept of
Exactly.
migrate our users.
yes, exactly. And SiteLink 3.0 we'll talk about now. Thank you for the segue. Okay. All right. So SiteLink 3.0 came out at the same time Office XP did on May 31st. And as I said, it's got the smart tags in there, as we just shown. But it's also got a variety of other tools in there that are, I think, more and more people are finding useful. SiteLink came out in '98, and we were way ahead of our time. In fact, if you look at the usage figures, we were so far ahead of our time, nobody knew about us. But over time, it's become more and more popular as more and more people shift towards electronic briefs. So we started to do things to make it more friendly still with batch and manual processing, intranet extensions so that it works. You can mark up links in your firm's documents or in your personal documents and have that point to intranet sites instead of REST. New formatting options. It's still way cool. Imitation is the best form of flattery, and our biggest competitor just recently, in fact January, launched their answer to this product. So we're complimented. SiteLink is more powerful and even simpler to use than it was. So enough with the corporate shtick. Resources. Okay, one of the great things that came out of that Legal Technology Council with Microsoft is a legal user's guide. And it's an excellent little source. And I urge you to check out that URL. There's a lot of good information on there about how to specifically use Word features to make life easy for legal users. There's a woman named Donna Payne from Donna Payne Consulting, and she's also heavily involved with word processing for legal users, and she has a book, Word 2002 for legal users, and you can find the links at her site. She also has similar books for about the previous 3 or 4 versions of Word. And of course, if you want to pick up the smart tags from West, westgroup.com/sitelink. So, let's get back to the virtual reality check. Now, I haven't shown you all the features, and I've shown you the ones that I think are the most relevant to legal stuff. You think, on the basis of that, it's worth buying? Is there enough difference to make your life easier to buy the version of XP? Just raise your hands if you think so. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how many not? How many think you can get along with what you got? Close? Yeah. Right. Well, you're exactly mirroring what the industry as a whole thinks. XP got a very mixed response. People recognize task panes as a huge advance because it, again, makes it much more friendly. They recognize smart tags as a really cool idea that's going to come along and be probably more and more prevalent in more and more applications. They see application recovery as a great thing. They really see that as, doing the best we can given the fact that no software will ever be perfect. But is it worth $450? It's that uncomfortable point where the pocketbook versus convenience comes into play. So you're an exact mirror of what everybody else thinks too. Are there any questions I can answer? Yeah.
XP obviously is using a lot of XML under the hood.
Yes.
Is it making XML and DTD-based editing available in use?
Oh, that's a really good question. Not in so many words.
Legal XML or
Yeah,
out there
right.
creating my own document types, can I do that directly?
The question is XP uses XML quite extensively. Is it making it friendly to edit XP-based documents? Is that an accurate transcription? And the answer is not really. There's a couple of things that it does that are nice. For instance, you can, if you've ever done save Word as HTML, and you get these huge documents that have easily 60% of it is cryptic tagging. And Microsoft-centric ways of creating XML. There are tools in there to lighten that up. So you get rid of all the bubbles of XML and HTML that are not appropriate. But in terms of Word as an XML editor, I haven't found that feature yet.
So you're saying it just puts out cleaner HTML than it used to?
Yes, much cleaner, much lighter weight, which is a good thing. I mean, but not as a true XML editor. I know WordPerfect is striding, and in fact, I think in this last release they delivered Edit XML. Last two releases, Edit XML with DTD checking.
It's kind of validating partially.
Yeah, right. They're not there yet. I think Word, because it's a WYSIWYG tool, their first and foremost user is the business user who's interested in what they see on the screen is what's going to show up on the paper. And they're not aiming for the technocentric types that are going to be using DTDs or XML. Other questions? Yeah. How do Office 2000 and XP get along? Rudely. XP writes over the top of that. It's not a happy situation. I was running 2000 and XP at the same time, and if I clicked on the icon that was 2000, it wanted me to reinstall a bunch of stuff. So it's kind of a one-way trip. At least that's been my experience so far. 2000 to me, again, this is my personal point of view, was a very minor incremental upgrade. There wasn't a lot of good stuff in there, so I wouldn't be afraid to lose 2000. I will arguably say, at least from the statistics I've seen, XP will be a more stable platform than Word 2000 will. Microsoft's been using that reporting function internally during their bug checking. So the big bugs that didn't get caught before because they didn't understand the statistics of the bugs are now not as many. There'll still be bugs, but they're not nearly as frequent. Some. It's like smart tags. There's smart tags for Excel. Word is the default editor in Outlook now, so smart tags are enabled there. There's some wonderful stuff in Outlook. One of the things that happens to me is, you get the reminders, and there's one pane for each reminder when you start up your computer. There's now one dialog. You can dismiss all, dismiss which ones you want. I mean, simple stuff like that has changed and made life a little easier. But it's not like you get a front page or a Visio or a Quantum Leap type program. They're all incremental type changes that are, again, oriented towards friendly, faster, more productive, easier to use, those sorts of things. So, yeah. Same formats. Yeah, as far as I know, it's all the same formats. There's no nastiness like there was with the Word 95 and 98. Right. I want to get back to your question. There are some changes in PowerPoint that are nice. If you're a big part, you can do things like animate, on a curve or a random path or some things like that. A lot of new transitions. PowerPoint is a much friendlier program to use now, at least in my opinion, than it was. That, I think, is the recipient of most of my thumb stamp of approval, is that got the most. So, yeah.
I forget, do you guys charge for SecNum?
We do not. That's a free program. I've managed to convince them to keep it that way for a while. I can't guarantee how much longer, but it's free at the moment. So yeah. Okay, I know things like this are kind of inherently boring. I hope it's been at least moderately entertaining. If you have some questions, please email me or give me a call. I'll be happy to tell you what I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.